Table B, we have Sam versus Evan. And then the deck list, we have our Despia branded and Kashtira, another blast from the past.
Yeah, a little bit of shades of Master Duel, certainly great decks in their own right, and both of them are really well equipped to face this fire format. But it's time to find out who's going to go first. Looks like it might be... Okay, it's going to be Despia branded. Okay. So Sam's going to go first.
Starting off with the Albion, we're going to send a card into the graveyard for cost, and then we're going to resolve the effect depending on what that is. Likely going for the draw.
Yeah, usually you're just going to send that Fallen Out Boss for the draw and then send Albion. Oh!
Branded Fusion.
Okay.
Oh, there must be some way to load that back into the hand. There are many, many ways for the Despia branded deck to manipulate the graveyard, to retrieve resources. This is one of those ways. I think that we're going for that type of setup.
Interesting. We might end up seeing Gimmick Puppet Nightmare before we know it, but we did just draw a card here. Let's see what is coming up next. And by the way, beautiful copy of Branded. Just
ultimate
amazing
rare.
Ultimate rare from the OTS packs.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to see Nadir's Servant.
Not all my cards are, but that one should be, yeah. Okay.
All right,
Nadir's Servant on the start. Interesting.
Well, going in the extract, not exactly a uniform play, but using the Guru to draw,
it was in this one?
perhaps. It's a little wild here. I guess we are maybe just trying to sculpt that hand, get the perfect combo going, get as many resources as possible. Also trying to feel out the opponent for any sorts of points of interaction from the hand, right? We probably would have seen an Ash Blossom by now. We probably would have seen a Droll and Lockbird, so he feels pretty safe, I would imagine, by now.
Now, with the Nadir's Servant, that's going to lock us out of the extra deck for a Despia branded deck. I don't know how much of an impact that's going to be, but we are going to play into the Dogmatica strategy using Dogmatica Maximus, banishing the Garura.
Ooh, and seeing the Ghost Mortar and Moonlit Chill drop down. That's going to negate the effects of the monster, and if it's sent to the graveyard, going to be a little effect damage along the way.
I think this is a very effective use of that card. Locking out, losing out, rather than just losing out cards in your extra deck and giving your opponent additional setup. But there's a follow-up from Sam activating Triple Tactics, Talons, and revealing this matchup entirely.
Exactly. Great to see those Kashtiras and all sorts of beautiful rarities, but it is true that the game is up. Sam now can carefully plan out his plays and know that Evan is going to be slamming down those level 7s on the board.
This is a bit difficult. Now, revealing from the hand 2 Fenrirs, a Unicorn, and a Triple Tactics Talon. Talons is going back into the deck. There's a little bit of redundancy in the hand.
Yeah, there's not really a way that you can escape those Kashtira. Obviously, the Unicorn can go for the Fenrir and vice versa. There's a lot of cool plays you can make, obviously, by grabbing those spell cards from the deck.
And attempt to use Nibiru.
And is this going to lock up the rest of the turn? We're going to see a couple set now. Don't write off the Despia branded yet. They can fuse on your turn as well. Let's not forget about that.
They absolutely can. It's our turn, remember? Shades of Super Polymerization there.
Oh, Fusion Duplication has been activated. That's what the setup was for with the Albion. Now we get to play branded Fusion on your turn.
Great play. Let's see what kind of monster he makes based on the materials we're sending to the graveyard.
So that's actually a very interesting trap card. Being able to copy the effect almost feels like the Predaplant Verti Anaconda almost.
Little bit, and we are seeing there is that dreaded Gimmick Puppet Nightmare being sent to the graveyard.
But is that as effective when it comes to the Kashtira deck, which doesn't necessarily need to access the extra deck? I know the new Kashtira variants are a little bit more combo-centric, but do they need access?
Well, but if they've got a monster on the board, it doesn't matter if you're locked into Gimmick Puppets or not. That might be the worst nightmare for Kashtira because they can't special summon from the hand if there's a face-up card on the field, right?
Yeah, that is the most difficult part for sure.
It's almost like giving just a token or something. It doesn't matter what it is. If there is an empty board, that's what Kashtira wants. And if there's not, things are not going according to plan. Taking a moment to consult the teammates there. Again, that's the cool thing here. You can just talk to your friends like, hey, man, how's this feel?
I mean, if you're in position B, I think you need to have the most amount of focus. You need to be able to focus on your game. You need to be able to focus on your opponent's game. You don't want to talk to your teammate and all of a sudden forget what you were doing yourself.
It is wild, though. They have to be both the Yami and the Yugi, right? They got to duel and be the voice inside saying, hey, maybe you should play this.
And I think we are going into a Gimmick Puppet lock. If that's the Albion Sanctifier, there it is.
What a great monster. Not only is it 3,000 attack and it can't be targeted, which is amazing on its own, but being able to bring out 2 monsters, 1 to each field, and obviously you're not going to want the Gimmick Puppet. You're not going to want anything on that Kashtira board, and we've managed to do that before anything happens.
Now, did Evan draw into an out? There are certain outs that are accessible, I would say, for this particular matchup. Maybe you go into your Kashtira berth, get yourself a normal summon of one of your Kashtira monsters in your hand, and that may be able to play the out. But this is a very tough situation. When you're locked out of special summoning, except for anything that is Gimmick Puppet related, I don't think the Kashtira deck has anything like that.
It's pretty difficult, and the fact that you can't target that Sanctifier Dragon, that's also difficult because, well, Kashtiras are good, but they do need to point a card sometimes.
Okay. Tough position for Evan on this turn. Like I said, if they have some way to activate Branded Fusion, they will find it. And it's not just branded in red. Now they're using Fusion Duplication. It is wild.
The Fusion Duplication is great. Anytime a deck that relies on Fusion spells flips over a trap, you're in trouble because usually it is just all spell cards for the most part, but he has made a great use of that. Again, taking a look at that Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, it probably feels like a nightmare, right?
Definitely. It's not negatable, which is one of the more difficult aspects of that card. When the moment it's special summoned onto your side of the field, the control of that card just gets locked out of that special summon. It's really, really rough. Evan forced to set a monster face down in defense position, and I believe he passed her. He made that gesture. Sam looking into the extra deck and using the effect of the Mirror Jade, we're going to be banishing the face down monster face up. That's going to be the Rise Heart.
I thought it might be. There's very few monsters in the Kashtira deck that you're going to be able to set unless it's one of those great monsters that can activate from the hand or Kashtira Rise Heart. But this is looking for trouble. And here's the other thing. Unfortunately, the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare is also a level 8. So even if it stayed on the field, it's not going to be of much service to this level 7 deck.
Definitely not. I believe we added, I think that's a Branded Fusion from the Albion. That means we have another Branded Fusion live. The Branded deck loves resolving that card. That is one of their best starting cards, and if they're able to resolve it twice, it spells a lot of trouble. But now, first off, we have a fight for Patchwork, being able to add an Edge Imp monster plus a Polymerization.
Very strong card, saw a lot of play right from the start when we started seeing the Albaz cards, especially in the Strike of Albaz structure deck. It's just an exciting card to be able to use all these different fusion strategies together without necessarily like crossing each other out. Again, the Edge Imp chain is really allowing you to do it because it's letting you get the fight for Patchwork, which lets you get everything you need.
I think there's additional advantage for playing the Polymerization. It's just another fusion card, really. And if you have the correct materials available already, oh, we are fusing away for 3 cards. Oh, that Mirror Jade is going to be special summoned back because one of the monsters used was the Ad Libitum of Despia.
Well, I know you wanted to see more Chimeras. I don't know if Guardian Chimera counts, but it is a great card here, so we're going to start building our chain.
Definitely counts. Definitely counts. Chimera in the name.
As long as it's supporting the team, there are just so much fusion monsters on the board. Great, beautiful copies, too.
Let's do a little bit of math here. We are going to be destroying the Gimmick Puppet because of the Chimera effect, I believe, and there's tons of damage here. Over 8,000. And I believe this could be game, unless Evan drew into a disruption from the hand that will keep him in.
Evan, seemingly steely face, not particularly worried about all these monsters, so there might be one last card that we're not seeing in his hand that could perhaps get him out of this jam, but right now we're seeing the attacks and attacks.
And he takes them all? And yeah, I believe that is game. We are sorting out the graveyard. I think we're preparing for the next game. So Sam J taking game 1. Yeah, definitely want to get that set up. At least this is one matchup where you know you're not going to get hit by the D-Shifter. In fact, if you get hit by Dimension Shifter, you're okay with that.
Hey, there's the Dimension Shifter.
Speaking of Dimension Shifter, right there. Well, that puts Sam on the back pedal now. No access to the graveyard. That means the Fusion Duplication is not going to work out this time.
And that does really help because, again, now you can play a little bit more confidently. We're seeing that extra deck just slung through for Pot of Prosperity. Time to reveal 6 cards. Sure, there's half damage, but oh wait, there's no battle phase this turn, so it doesn't feel that bad.
Also, with the Dimension Shifter already landed, we're not going to worry about Drone Lockbird. Drone Lockbird needs to be sent to the graveyard to resolve it properly. There's a Drone Lockbird right there, but don't think we're going to see that added to hand while we're under Shifter.
Probably not, but man, gorgeous copies from the Megaton of Kashtira Birth. I definitely need to trade up for some of those. Those are amazing.
Birth, very powerful.
Looks like we are going to take the Birth, and Birth is such a great idea here because, again, once they activate a spell card and they have 3 or more cards in the graveyard, then you can go ahead and banish 3 cards from the graveyard and maybe get those painful assets out of the way. So while Dimension Shifter will cover you for next turn, you've got great options for later.
And that Kashtira Birth, your opponent has to activate spell cards to get those fusions in. And if you're able to just banish all the options, it hurts a lot. Take away the Fallen of Albaz, especially when you banish it face down, you don't have access to it anymore. And now we're going to special summon out Kashtira Unicorn. Unicorn being able to add a Birth?
Looked like a Birth, yes.
You too, man.
So probably means we already have Kashtira Theosis in the hand.
There's the Theosis. Oh, wait, hold on. That is a Birth. I think there's another monster we're going to summon. It's going to be the Ogre. Likely we're going to be playing the track right, either Big Bang or Preparation.
It's good to see Ogre. You know, some people have dropped Ogre from their list, but again, trap cards are good. We have found that out so many times at the top tables here.
I would say if Kashtira Ogre lands an attack, manages to resolve its effect to look at your top 5 cards and banish one of them face down, you're in for a very rough spot, as they already know what you're going to draw. They get to control it a little bit. If it's a card that's going to be very impactful, they'll take it away and make you more or less have a dead draw coming up.
Exactly. I mean, you can't get any more Kashtira prepared than that, but adding the Kashtira preparations on top of that with Kashtira Ogre's effect is just genius. Again, it's such a strong deck. Yes, it's very linear in the sense that it just kind of builds it block by block, but here's that Kashtira Theosis in order to grab our next card.
I believe it targeted the water Kashtira, which is the Ogre. Now we're going to summon out the Fenrir. Fenrir is going to lead to another card being added. Man, not being able to activate Drawn Logbird under these situations, let the Kashtira player set up much more, and it's a lot safer.
Now, we can't get ahead of ourselves. Again, Evan is still going to have to rely on his teammates in order to carry some of the momentum here. One of those two has to win, and we're not sure what the results are on either side. But again, just playing very concentrated. Even Sam just staring at the board. They are just in it.
I wonder if we're going to see some of the combo-esque parts of Kashtira, but we're under Shifter. Likely they're not going to commit into their extra deck because a lot of those extra deck cards do rely on using the graveyard. And so just leaving a board full of Kashtira, a field full of Kashtira, is very difficult. Once you activate your first effect, things are going off.
Oh, so many things are going off. Now, here's the thing. Using Kashtira Unicorn, obviously you can start to rifle through a Despia branded extra deck, but what are you going to take there? Are you so afraid of the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare Lock that you go for the Sanctifier?
I think in this particular case, you would not need to. You have established your field. Your field has monsters. The Gimmick Puppet won't do anything. I think you might go for some of the stronger hitters, maybe the Mirror Jade.
Mirror Jade would certainly keep everything at bay, and there's the preparations being flipped face up.
That is a very dangerous card. If a trap card gets activated while you control a Kashtira monster, that is going to allow you to look at your opponent's hand and rip one out and banish it face down.
Well, let's see what the first card that Sam will play voluntarily is.
Patchwork. Yep. That's okay. Now, the branded birth, sorry, not branded birth, Kashtira birth, let me go ahead and get ahead of myself here. That's not going to, get any value at this moment because everything's getting banished. You're not going to be able to set up the additional 3 cards in the grave just yet. That's a future plan.
It is. Evan was very excited. If you caught that, he looked immediately at the Kashtira birth before letting his opponent go ahead and resolve the effect because it's not quite there yet. Dimension Shift doing most of the work here. But we have added our cards from the Fight for Patchwork. Let's see what happens next.
Face up.
Well, while under Shifter, you're not afraid of getting drolled either, so there we go. There's some benefit. Oh, Cosmic Cyclone targeting the face-down card.
And it is just another Kashtira birth. Swing and a miss there.
That's the tough one.
At least the unknowns are now known.
Now, preparation has an additional effect. Don't forget, you could special summon one of your banished Kashtira monster or summon one from your hand. Actually, if you think about it, both Birth and Preparation are capable of summoning from hand and summoning from the banish.
Well, it'll help because if anything bad happens... Oh, speaking of which, here comes Dark Ruler no more.
Very powerful card, turning all of the Kashtira monsters offline now, but there will be no battle damage or any damage of any sort going to Evan.
I think at this point, Sam is just trying to establish a board, unless we're just setting a monster face down.
We're setting a card and activating Polymerization. That is a 3-material one. That is very smart, not letting the Unicorn take away the Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is going to go off here. That's going to be able to draw 2 cards and also destroy 1 on the field.
Now, taking a look here on our chain links, I wonder what it is that you're going to destroy. I mean, I'm always terrified of Kashtira, Fenrir, but the birth actually is important too, and so is the preparations. There's almost too many cards to just make a meaningful pick and then basically be out of this jam.
But looking at Sam, he actually took the play really, really well here with the Dimension Shifter because one of the material was a Mercurier.
And speaking of playing well, it looks like the blue team has taken each of the first games. So Sam has the backup from Julian and Anthony as well. And that means that X3 get food. Well, hopefully they don't have to get food soon.
They've got another round at least. They've got another round, so nothing to worry there. But I think Sam's playing really well under the Dimension Shifter. It is a very tough place to be, but there are certain cards that do activate in Banish, such as that Mercurier. Being able to draw 2 cards, another very, very awesome option. I mean, even some of the Despia cards, if they get banished, you do get additional cards, but not having access to the graveyard does hurt. And we are losing the second copy of the Birth.
2 birds down, 1 to go if he's even running it. It does help that getting rid of those spells means that future spells are going to be safe. And so
For
now
now.
we're going to draw 2. For now. You never know with Kashtira, right? They can always jump back in, but it looks like we're going to go banish that Albion.
Okay, drawing more cards. See, now that you can't activate your own draw locker, which we did see in Evan's side, that's allowing Sam to take advantage of this. Like, I'm going to dig deep into my deck now.
Kashtira is definitely a double-edged sword, but speaking of double-edged swords, Heartbeat's Feather Duster is going to clear out that last spell and trap. So doing a great job of just clearing out all the Kashtira cards. Obviously, we're not going to be battle damage this turn, but that may not matter if Sam is able to basically rifle through all of Evan's strategy and leave him with maybe a monster or two.
Lucky for Sam, he did recover a couple of cards along the way. That Feather Duster probably come in pretty useful, as Kashtira are able to recover resources from Banish as long as they have additional Theosis, which you still have access to Unicorn. You can still get additional Theosis. If you can banish that Theosis, which is pretty easy within the Kashtira strategy, you can start getting back some of your Banish cards, including the spells.
I feel like we probably would have seen the Feather Duster sooner if he had it. It might have been drawn from Allure of Darkness, but obviously Feather Duster for one is a thing since that card came out so many years ago.
And now we're getting to see fusion deployment. We're trying to avoid hitting the graveyard as much as possible. Now that particular copy of Guardian Chimera, that can be targeted because that polymerization is banished thanks to the Dimension Shifter.
So shiny you can hardly see it, but I believe that's Blazing Cartesia on the field.
Yes.
It is. Ooh, we are now playing the branded opening. We're gonna set up the strategy. Wow.
Now it hurts
so
to
many
discard
plays.
that super poly. Oh yeah, so many plays for Dave. But there's a Luber, the Jester of Despia. So getting those resources back.
Sam is committing pretty hard into this particular play, as everything that he plays now is getting banished.
And Fusion Deployment, just such a great card. It shows that fusions have come along such a long way. I remember when King of the Swamp was first released. Wow, this is the height of fusions. And now we have all these great cards to really let you maximize this game mechanic.
So Sam summoned out one of their favorite monsters, Aluber. What a good monster.
Just
really
incredible.
Good, really good.
Now, it may not hit the graveyard to get its powerful graveyard effect, but it does look like we're going to do Branded Fusion here.
I think Sam needs to clear out this field. You can't leave the Fenrir, you can't leave the Unicorn, and you know you don't have access to the graveyard, so a lot of the follow-up that usually comes from the branded player, there's just no access. You need to be able to answer everything here. Evan kind of looking not too solid in terms of like the resource in hand, and so if all the monsters here get destroyed, this is going to be a very pivotal moment for Sam to kind of regain the tempo.
No, you're absolutely right. Sam, if he is not going to lose to Team X3 Get Food, he needs to clean off his plate, so there is no food left to get.
Well, there's going to be no damage done, so guaranteed Evan will get a turn back. But this is a difficult situation. Without raid slots, nothing boosting up the attack. So we already have one monster accounted for, thanks to the Guardian Chimera having such a very, very big stat line. But Sam committing into making bigger monsters, that's also going to drain out his own resources.
The deck keeps going and going. The good news, playing a 60-card deck, you've got plenty more cards left.
And we get the Lubellion.
Now, Lubellion definitely helping.
Does Lubellion have the... What was the cost for the Lubellion effect?
Did not quite catch that, although if you were overhearing, we just had our time called. Remember, that's just for the main event, so that's not going to affect the 22 some odd minutes we have left on the clock here. But again, it's true that, this deck likes to banish and it likes to reuse cards from its banish pile, so the Dimension Shifter may just be accelerating the strategy more than it's actually slowing it down.
Well, of the two monsters that likely are going to be cleared, there's going to be the Unicorn and the Fenrir. The two that would give you the most amount of resources are the ones being cleared off the field.
No, I'm definitely not worried about Kashtira Ogre at that point. Obviously, it's a big body, and certainly it can disrupt your plays, but it's not doing the same thing as Unicorn, which would be going through your extra deck, and it's not doing the same thing as Fenrir, which would be clearing out your field.
So the copy of Lubellion was able to attack because it did not use the effect. I think Sam ran out of resources, and I think that was the intention, just to get a monster just large enough to run over the Fenrir. We've got that play down.
Sometimes cards are good because of their effects, sometimes they're just big bodies, and Lubellion happens to be both. But oh, a classic here. Enter the code left, right, AB. We're taking a monster.
We are taking the Guardian Chimera of all cards. It's very difficult here because there's also the Cartesia. I think Cartesia can perform a fusion.
And it looks like she is. So enemy controller is certainly a powerful card, but the graveyard is back, and putting a Luber, the Jester of Despia, in the graveyard now is insane.
Oh no, and now we have a negate on the field, which is going to be the Predaplant, Dragostepelia.
Just an incredible card. Not only does it put a Predator Plant counter on a card, negating its effects, but it changes it to level 1, which can be detrimental to the Kashtira strategy. They love the level 7s.
It's a great follow-up for Sam, because even if Evan right now has a Kashtira monster, it's likely just going to be negated, and the Predator Plant is stronger than most Kashtira monsters, except for Ogre.
Evan seems to be smiling. He's only got 1 card. This may be the end of this duel, but remember, we do have 2 out of 3 matches between the different teams, so we might be able to peek into them. We'll see.
The 60-card deck versus the 40-card deck. And we do have a unicorn. Oh no, that Despia is going to put in quite a bit of work.
Exactly. Now, Kashtira monsters are strong, but their effects usually happen after the fact, so attempting to activate the effect here, all you need to do is slap that Predator Plant counter. It'll be negated, and it'll be too late for Kashtira Unicorn to be able to reply back.
So in this case, even with the Unicorn, what a great card. I don't know if that's going to be able to. We're going to see the activation of the Despia, turning that Kashtira into a level 1 and also negating its activated effects.
Still a big monster, but just not quite the same star rating.
And you also don't get to look at their extra deck either. Oh, that's a double whammy.
You don't get any knowledge for future plays. You don't get any knowledge for future games. But unfortunately, yes, Kashtira, if you're a fan at home of Kashtira, it's kind of going down to the wire for them. But still a big monster on the field. 2,500 is nothing to slack at. And because we had Dark Ruler no more, there was no life point damage.
We did get multiple summons, and we're going to special summon into Typhon.
The crisis is here.
I mean, I think this Typhon was more or less forced into, but we're trying to simplify the game state. As Sam did use most of his resource, most of it's banished.
Now, speaking of simplified game state, actually nothing has changed. So Anthony still facing against Alexander. Same thing with Julian versus Dean. So nothing's changed just yet. That means that this game is certainly important, but we're not down to the wire just yet.
But the Cartesian has been added back into hand during the end phase thanks to a fusion monster being sent to the graveyard. That could be big, since it gives him another fusion.
Now, the Star Slayer certainly is helping out. Remember, it should be preventing the activation of the effects of 3,000 attack or higher monsters. Is that right?
That is correct.
It is the Zeus counter, after all.
Yeah, and being at 29, do they have a counter for this? Now, even if they can't activate their effects, battling is still allowed. And we're going to see if that is going to be enough. If we can survive the turn, I think there may be a chance we might need another copy of Unicorn. We need a very powerful card, or the field spell. There's certainly outs for him. Oh no, the branded fusion.
We may not get to another turn, sending the cards to the graveyard.
And we're seeing the Bestial Lubellion and the Fallen of Albaz. Ooh, what a beautiful rarity.
Oh man, somebody's showing up with style with this branded deck, using both materials as OTS Ultimate Rares.
I mean, Sam truly highlighting that under D-Shifter, I'm still able to play. I'm not getting out of this. And his execution of taking out all the spells and traps was very pivotal to the basically be built up to this moment.
Just incredible. We've talked a lot about Mirror Jade, but it's finally being slapped down on the board.
The Mirror Jade cannot activate in this particular case, but it is mainly there just to attack over that Typhon. That's going to cause 100 damage.
At 100 damage is the beginning of a lot of slaps here. Again, we're going to have 1,800 from the Aluber. And the Lubellion
cannot be used as material this turn.
And we're going to see more attack. I believe that Lubellion was the one that was from the previous turn. There's a lot of damage coming down.
Just so much. It's incredible how this deck just continues to put bodies on the board. Now, we've seen that work against it, right? Branded is not invincible, and when you eventually claw through all of those effects, it may not add up to game, again, because they're not really doing a whole lot other than just putting resources on the board and sort of recurring. But, well, they've got a little bit of backup from their Bestial friends.
I think Evan is in really tight spot. I'm not sure if there's going to be enough. If there's going to be, that is branded lost on the field. Lubellion's on the field. We have a Mirror Jade that has not activated the effect. You need to play through 2 cards now.
You're absolutely right, and it looks like Evan has no cards in hand, so there is not really a lot in the Kashtira strategy where a single card is going to get you out of this. For the most part, and there's the Branded Red being set.
Branded in red, there's going to be additional fusion. Now, there's not going to be Guardian Chimera to my knowledge because we already see it being banished right there, but there's just so many things you can still fuse into. And you can even lock them up, maybe get some burn damage in with some of the other Despia cards.
Would be a little scary if that's the case. Drew a card.
Is it the perfect card?
I mean, the heart of the cards is the thing sometimes. Lucky is a part of skill.
So, I think Sam's playing this really, really well. Just showcasing his knowledge about his own deck. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's run it back through and through.
Well, the good news is this is a deck that you can play test in multiple different formats, but Kashtira Fenrir is a great way to get back in the game.
And that is not happening. We're never letting that one stick. Great top deck.
Wishful thinking, though, unfortunately, for us Kashtira fans.
They're extending the handshake, and they fist bump, and Sam